I once had a doll that was all dressed in white. We called her my baby, and I'd hold her tight. Her eyes were so blue and her cheeks were so red. But I loved her most of all, each time she said,
Oh, welcome back, my children of rot. You, my favorite playthings. You, my proverbial Pinocchio. And this, your land of toys. A place of make-believe, of magic. Welcoming the unsuspecting guest to live a life of wild abandon, with seemingly no consequence at all. A wonderland of vice. Yes, indulge, feast your eyes, glut your soul. For all the while, we have plans for you, my dear. A design all our own. It's amusing that the true story of Pinocchio has been lost with Disney. The first story was seemingly much more accurate to the, human condition. Pinocchio wanted to be a real boy, after all. So, of course, his first course of action was to murder his conscience. The helpless cricket who had peacefully dwelled inside the puppet maker's home for over a century, smashed to bits with a hammer. This is the thanks he gets for trying to guide the youth. Our villains, Honest John and Gideon, were highwaymen who hung Pinocchio from a noose to steal his money. Pinocchio survives, but only because the two grew weary of watching the poor thing strangle on a rope, leaving before the job was done. So many vile notes overlooked by good old Walt. The land of toys exists on the island named, oh so fittingly, Cocaine, a medieval myth peasants shared with one another, dreaming to escape the world they knew, a place of perverted fulfillment, every sin of the flesh satisfied. Perhaps you recall Pinocchio's friend Lampwick, whose hedonism transforms him into a bucking, screeching jackass. Does he find redemption? Of course not. He dies forgotten in a farmer's field, worked to death. What fun. And of course, there's the oh-so-peculiar Geppetto. What sort of a grown man spends his days hidden away in a creepy old house with a talking puppet? Absurd. Ridiculous.
Hey, Spooks.
Hello, Bugsy.
Scram! Beat it! Get the hell out of here! What gives? What's with all the toys? I don't need an understudy.
Oh, of course not, Bugsy. One constant source of turmoil and grief is enough for me.
Hey!
I was just cleaning out the beast's crawl space. I'm afraid I've spoiled him rotten.
Don't blame yourself, Spooky. He was rotten already. Just buy some damn fly tape. Hubba, hubba. Who's that broad?
Who, that one? Her pull strings broke. She can't even talk anymore.
Those are the best kind. Is she posable?
Good grief, Bugsy. I thought you were seeing some French marionette.
She's too clingy for me. I need something no strings attached. Get it?
Well, what about that nice ventriloquist lady you were talking to?
What fun is it if her lips never move? How was I supposed to get my hand under her skirt if her hand was always up my...
Oh, that's exactly what we need. You procreating. Think of all those little hand puppets to feed. In you, Bugsy. You haven't worked since vaudeville.
Hey, I do this damn show.
I don't pay you.
I know.
Don't you get too mouthy with me. There are plenty of other haunted dolls out there that haven't the opportunities that I provided you.
Okay, wise guy, tell me who.
Like your friend Robert, kept inside a glass box and stared at by fat Midwestern tourists day in and day out.
Tough break for poor Robert.
Yes, indeed. Poor Robert. 115 years ago, he was manufactured by the Stife Toy Company, still in business today. He was intended to be a storefront mannequin, but instead he found his way to the hands of a small boy named Robert Eugene Otto, a gift from his grandfather. Seemingly innocent, the boy named the doll after himself, and the two quickly became inseparable. The boy began referring to the doll as a person. Robert did this, Robert did that. Always acts of mischief. harmless at first. Seemingly the acts of the boy only blamed on the doll. Servants passing by the child's room would hear conversations, one voice belonging to the child, and the other was far too strange to have been him. Each time, the door was opened, and each time, they would only find the boy and his doll. Some nights, after the child was tucked into bed, he could be heard screaming and screaming. The parents would arrive to his room to find the furniture overturned and the other toys torn to ribbons. Robert the doll would not be where they left him. The boy, obviously, had remained tucked in bed. Small footsteps and a child's laughter would echo through the house's halls, even when the child was at school. Servants who mishandled the doll or spoke against him would find themselves suffering greatly. A string of misfortune, simply bad luck, or was it a curse brought on by the doll? Years went by and the boy became a man, a peculiar artist, who never could part with Robert. Robert was placed in an upstairs window of a turret room, all his own. This was done in jest by Robert, though passerby hardly found it amusing. Some felt as though the doll was glaring at them. Others claimed to see him move. His head would turn or he would vanish altogether, seemingly walking away from time to time. Guests visiting the artist would often hear boards creaking in the room, as though the doll were pacing the floor, strategizing a way to escape his confines. Robert Eugene Otto passed away in 1974, some say from madness, after locking Robert the doll away in the attic. If all this was indeed a hoax, surely Robert the doll would have died along with his owner. However, the artist's home and its contents were bought by an elderly woman named Myrtle Reuter. The house was plagued by unexplainable phantom phenomena, but more often than not, it was in the room with the doll. Mrs. Reuter, after 20 years of living with this strange events, reached a breaking point and gave the doll to Fort East Mortello Museum. When asked what significance this doll had for donation, Miss Reuter only said, "It's haunted." He remained in storage for many years there, with no publicity whatsoever. Somehow residents in the area, who had seen Robert in the window of the artist's home, began writing the museum, asking the doll to remove whatever hex he had placed upon them. Eventually the museum relented to paranormal enthusiasts and put Robert on display in a little sailor suit that was worn by his first owner. Inside his glass box, you will find several letters from tourists still begging his forgiveness. Only Robert knows for certain if their pleas have been acknowledged, or if they've fallen upon deaf ears. Visiting guests still claim that their cameras and phones malfunction and refuse to work whenever Robert doesn't want his picture taken. Some even believe they've seen Robert's expression change before their very eyes. Some say an angry servant somehow jinxed the doll using voodoo witchcraft, a punishment to the Otto family. Others that the doll's actions were merely the delusional creation of a mentally ill child. But I believe the doll was given life by a child's unwavering faith in a once strictly imaginary friend. After all, doesn't every child have one at some point in their life?
That's the only other doll out there alive, besides me.
Oh, not at all, Bugsy. There's an entire island with dolls just south of Mexico City that are very much so alive. Its owner, Barrio de la Asunción, went mad after discovering a young lady drowned near the island's edge. Her body was tangled in lily pads, and in her right hand was a baby doll. Barrio was once a successful farmer, but slowly he lost his mind, delving deeply into scripture, hoping the power of religion would be enough to rescue him from the drowned girl and the other malignant spirits that waited just off the coast in the water. Barrio covered the entire island with dolls, all shapes and sizes, strapped to trees, nailed to walls, all in the hopes to appease them. Apparently, he could only outrun them for so long. Barrio was discovered dead, his lungs full of murky water, drowned in the very spot he had found the young dead lady all those years ago. The island is abandoned today. Without Barrio and his faith, all you'll find there now are the spirits from the water who have taken up residence inside the dolls.
Some dumb dolls are on an island. What the hell can they do?
Well, there's Mandy the doll. She was given to a museum in Canada by a woman who claimed she only wanted to make sure the doll was in safe hands. The museum, for their records, had to take photos of Mandy before she was added to their collection. She was left in the restoration lab that evening, and the following morning, the staff was mystified. Small pieces were smashed and broken, heavy furniture overturned. The only piece unharmed was Mandy. Mandy eventually was ready for display in an exhibit with other dolls. The others always were found turned over, knocked down, smashed even. But never was Mandy. Guests would routinely avoid the room exhibiting Mandy, and when asked why, the common reason was that they felt her cracked eye was following them. Eventually, a medium was asked to determine what was wrong with Mandy. The psychic claimed to hear an unearthly sobbing, which led to phantom visions of a child's body hidden deep inside a root cellar, and in its arms was the doll Mandy. The twist, you ask? A member of the staff eventually, frustrated, took it upon themselves to confront the woman who had donated the doll to their museum. She confessed that she and her daughter, late at night, would hear a child crying uncontrollably from down in their root cellar. A child that wasn't there at all. This disturbing activity only had begun after she inherited Mandy. A paranormal investigator from the United Kingdom claims to have even captured it all moving on camera. It's an old man marionette given to her by its previous owner. They claimed that this puppet tried strangling them in their sleep. What fun! Inside its box you can see the cross mechanism used to make it move, slither from corner to corner, as though it were trying to come to life.
Just because they move doesn't mean they're alive. Right.
Oh, it doesn't? Well, how about this? In 1918, the doll of Hokkaido was purchased by a man for his little sister, Akiko. Hauntingly reminiscent of Robert, Akiko chose to name her doll after herself. Akiko sadly grew ill and passed away. The family at first thought to bury the child with her favorite doll, but instead they chose to put it at their family's altar. A strange metamorphosis soon came over the doll, however. They realized the doll's hair was growing. Eventually the traditional bob was gone, and instead the hair reached past the table. The family cut it, but the hair continued to grow. The family believed that somehow the child's spirit had entered the doll. In the 1930s, the family decided to move and entrusted this doll to the Meningi Temple. She's still there today, with the monks routinely trimming her hair, despite the fact that she has been seen walking and whispering to herself.
Well, it's not like you could just go out and buy a haunted doll, now is it?
I could very easily go to any black magician and have them tailor a poppet to my specific needs. A poppet is an early Middle English pronunciation of what we know today as a puppet, sometimes used as a term of endearment in the UK. But don't be fooled. A puppet in witchcraft is essentially a voodoo doll, an effigy created from roots or from earth for witches to focus their intent, imbuing them with the power and life they see fit. A faithful henchman sent to do their bidding.
Well, okay, all right. I guess I ain't the only talking doll in show business, okay? Jeez, what gives? You really know how to make a guy feel special.
I didn't finish. There's only one doll proven to have killed. Only one that can play the piano. Only one that knows where my last 3 husbands are buried.
I was there for 5 of them.
Stop! I might have moved a few. Only one dummy knows what Bobo did to that helpless family. You may be made of sawdust and cheap gin, but you're one of a kind, Bugs. So what do you say? Why don't we go get some ice cream, huh? My treat.
Rum raisin?
Yes, rum raisin if we must. If we hurry, we can catch the news. I hear there was a bus crash earlier.
Hot dog! I love a good bus crash. You promised there was one?
Well, if there wasn't one, we can make one. It's all about improvising. Oh yes. As for you, dear viewer, I do hope you enjoyed our little program. For tomorrow, you could be our next show subject of interest. Only time can tell for certain. But if I were you, I would err on the side of caution. And as always, remember me as you scroll by. If you liked our show, then please subscribe, as we are now. So you must be. prepare for death, and follow me. All right, Bugsy, come on, let's go. Bobo, get the car! Be still, wake up. There you are, dear. You can have these ones back. Now there. Patience.